Formula 1 is the pinnacle of motorsport. Drivers spend years and years going through the lower categories and driving for some mid-level to low field, pretty slow cars to try and get to F1. But when they get there, the journey's not over yet. Sometimes it can actually end in a matter of a year. Sometimes you only have a season or two to really prove yourself in Formula 1, and trying to drive a car that just doesn't respond, is not fast and can't compete, sometimes your career can just end there. And we have seen that in many times, drivers coming in and only lasting one season. Sometimes we've only seen them last a few races in F1 before they are out of the door. Now obviously, if you find that quite hard to think about, climbing the mountain and obviously getting kicked down straight away, if you need any workout around what that must feel like, then I'll take you back to 2016, when we all remember what happened in Red Bull Racing. Obviously the big train place malarkey between Daniel Kvyat, who now drives for Toro Rosso, but obviously it was a long and hard road to get back into Formula 1 for him, and obviously between Max Verstappen. So in that instance, you had a young guy, 18 years old at that point at Toro Rosso. Obviously he hadn't really proved himself that much or to anyone else's standings. He hadn't had a podium, hadn't had a fastest lap, had a few points here and there, and was doing okay, but he had a lot of talk around the back. And Danny Kvyat, well, the main thing anyway was Danny Kvyat at Red Bull. He crashed. He had some good finishes. I remember it was Hungary 2015. He had a podium, obviously, alongside Daniel Ricciardo. He also had a podium in China 2016, which was 2 races before he was kicked down from Red Bull. And then they just decided that Danny Kvyat wasn't worth driving for a big team like Red Bull Racing. They wanted to swap him in for a driver at Toro Rosso. Then obviously he was kicked down. That's just if you didn't hear the story. Then obviously he went to Toro Rosso, lasted about just under a season there, and then obviously was kicked out of Formula 1. Spent a year on sabbatical, obviously fighting all his energy trying to get back on the Red Bull program, trying to get back into Formula 1, and then obviously, long story short, he is finally back in Formula 1 in 2019. Obviously driving for Toro Rosso, his old team, the one which, by the way, he was supposed to have proved himself in 2014 to drive for Red Bull, obviously replacing Sebastian Vettel when he moved on, so he'd already supposed to have proved himself there. But then obviously after a lot of fighting, he is back in Toro Rosso. Now the thing that we're going to talk about in this episode is drivers who only have a short time to prove themselves in Formula 1. Now obviously there's been loads of drivers, we can't name all the names, but there's a few on the grid at the moment which we can get a little bit worried for. Now obviously, as you know, you sign for a team, you sign for a team in any sport, you stay that length, and then obviously you're out of the door. We haven't seen a demotion, obviously, unfortunately, like we have Danny Kvyat, obviously kicked out of Red Bull and kicked out of Toro Rosso. But we have a handful of drivers which our contracts are up at the end of the season, and we are a little bit worried about, are they going to stay in Formula 1? Have they proved themselves? And then obviously, is this year basically should be their first season? Is this a make or break year for them? Now the first one I'm going to talk about is Pierre Gasly. Now obviously he is the new driver at Red Bull Racing Honda. Obviously he came through the Red Bull Junior program. He was the Formula 3 world champion, and he came into Formula 1 in 2017 with Toro Rosso. Now obviously he proved himself in Toro Rosso in 2017, pretty okay. He actually didn't score any points in that season, but it was a progressive year for a team that were really struggling. Toro Rosso at that point weren't like a Red Bull Junior program at that time. Really struggling with the power unit that they had at that time. Weren't really close with Red Bull. But then obviously he moves on to 2018. The silver kind of livery moves on. Obviously he gets a new teammate as Carlos Sainz moves on. He gets a new teammate in the style of Kiwi Brendan Hartley, and a good season from there. 29 points that he scores, some good top 10 finishes. I always remember one of the best races was Hungary for him. He had a top 10 qualifying in Hungary in the damp, and then obviously finished inside the top 10 in the race. So he proved himself at Toro Rosso in that year. Then obviously moves on for 2019 at the Red Bull, in the Red Bull Racing car. Now obviously he's alongside Dutch driver Max Verstappen in a team that, as I've just said, as I just opened the episode with, are scary. Now you must be pretty scared to go to Red Bull now. You must be pretty scared to think, oh my god, I am actually entering the team where, they kicked out a driver just randomly. No, sorry, not randomly, I didn't mean to say that. They kicked out a driver. Well, it was actually randomly. They had some reasons to do that. For example, like he wasn't mixing in with some of the fans. He had a few crashes here and there. Sebastian Vettel, an ex-driver of Red Bull, talked to the team principal, and we don't know, but might have said some things. And obviously the influence of Max Verstappen getting him in the Red Bull seat. So obviously, when you enter Red Bull, it must be a little bit daunting, thinking, you know, this is the team that kicked out Danny Kvyat. You know, it's like, do I really want to be there? Will I be able to prove myself? So you've really got to hit the ground running when you get into Red Bull, or anyway, that's what Gasly must have thought. Obviously, the first thing that he did was winter testing. Obviously, week one, pretty solid from him. Obviously, doing a decent amount of laps. Obviously, sharing the car with Verstappen, getting on, seeing out the really good teammates. Red Bull not showing as much. Obviously, I've said it in the preview show, which obviously came out a few days ago. John said it on the last F1 debate show. Red Bull Racing, pretty dull team. Obviously, not really showing much, not showing what they should be as, you know, a four-time constructor. That's obviously why it was a bit of a shot in the dark given our predictions. So obviously, week 2, Pierre Gasly rolls in, and obviously, I think it's day 2, and what does he do? He crashes. He puts it into the wall. Now, we all saw that. It was a high-speed collision, pretty stupid, and, you know, at any other time, you'd think that's just a stupid mistake that he made. You know, it's winter testing, the car's new, you know, you're just testing everything from the tyres, the suspension, to the engine. It's just a freak accident that happened. And if it was a Toro Rosso, it might not have made any difference. But, you know, Dr. Helmut Marko, obviously, who is in charge of the team, has basically said to Pierre Gasly that, you know, he's just got to really improve and, you know, step up his game. And he's not said that he might be dropped, but from what we've read, it might be looking like Pierre Gasly has to really hit the ground running at Red Bull, or he could suffer the same fate as Danny Kvyat. Now, you know, you've had Danny Ricciardo in that team. You've had Danny Ricciardo and you've had Max Verstappen for a good few years now. I think that might have died down a bit because they were comfortable in the two drives that they had. But now that Pierre Gasly's come in, the young gun, and the team's gone to Honda engines, it's kind of like a new revamp for the team, a brand new start. It's actually quite similar to when Danny Kvyat came in alongside Danny Ricciardo after Sebastian Vettel, the four-time world champion, moved from the team, and obviously after an abysmal 2014. So it's quite similar to that. So Pierre Gasly might be feeling that he's kind of under stress and that he will have to hit the ground running and basically try and avoid a Danny Kvyat. Now, obviously, Jordan, we're going to bring you in now. Obviously, that was that's my views on Pierre Gasly. Obviously, big views. Now, obviously, the warning that he's had from Dr. Helmut Marko, you know, it's to step up his game. Obviously, he crashed. It wasn't good. Obviously, in a big team like Red Bull Racing, you know, it's not good to perform like that. But, you know, in my opinion, I feel like, you know, it is kind of reverting back to the Danny Kvyat kind of days that, you know, he could be in the firing line in a few races' time or something. So do you feel like Pierre Gasly, you know, has to hit the ground running with the team? Do you think he has a bit of breathing room with the team? And obviously we've already discussed, obviously, about Verstappen. Is the team based around him? And obviously it does kind of lean a little bit towards Verstappen, but it still is in Gasly's favour. But how long do you think Gasly can find his feet in the team? Do you think he has any at all? Or do you think he has to hit the ground running or risk the same fate as what happened to Kvyat a few years ago?
Well, I know it sounds like a bit bizarre that we are like talking about like drivers possibly leaving the teams even before the season started. But like, yeah, I mean, Pierre Gasly is certainly one of those names, but you literally have to like bring up because about like what I was saying there about the whole Danny Kvyat situation. You know that he had a bit of a shaky start to life at Red Bull. Was it thrown in too early? I mean, some say he was, some say he wasn't. In Gasly, you know, he has been thrown into Red Bull too early. Even Helmut Marko said that I think we've thrown in Pierre Gasly a lot earlier than what we expected because they thought Ricciardo was going to stay for another year or two, and obviously when they found out he was going to Renault, they had to quickly think of, okay, who have we got? And there's only Pierre Gasly available. I would have thought at the time, obviously there was other drivers available, but probably cheaper and a bit easier to sign would have been Pierre Gasly, and obviously he did do a kind of job at Toro Rosso, so, and obviously GP2 Formula 2 or GP2 champion, I think when he won.
Gasly, yeah, sorry, F2.
Yeah, Gasly, yeah, GP2. Well, I think it was last season when it was called GP2. He won that championship, did this little stint in Formula E, came back into Formula 1, which I'm pleased he has because I do like him as a driver, but I think he does need to find his feet quite quickly because Honda need to Red Bull need to prove to Renault especially that the Honda package is going to work, and you know, like, we're not too sure how it's going to go yet because, as like I said in the testing videos and you know the build up to to the season, if you like. I don't know where Red Bull and Honda stand because they've been so quiet in testing. I'm not too sure where they actually are. I don't know, like I said, if they're back end of top 3 or if they're leading the midfield or even further back down. I really don't know, because everyone's just assuming that Red Bull's is just going to be in 3rd place again, and I'm like, I don't know. But they could generally be quicker than the Mercedes, which I know sounds a bit bizarre, but obviously they haven't showed their true pace, and neither has Mercedes. Mercedes could literally have a really slow car, and Honda might have a really fast car, and they just don't want to show that yet. It's just one of those situations. But Pierre Gasly, I would probably say, needs to get results quite soon, because if Verstappen, being the driver he is, will get score points early on. So let's say he gets a podium here and there. Let's say the first 5 races, Verstappen gets 3 podiums, and let's say Gasly doesn't get any podiums, but he maybe gets a 5th and a 6th. That's probably not good enough for Red Bull's level, because he wants Gasly to be pretty much on par with Max Verstappen. And if they're not going to be in a championship winning situation, if you like, then Gasly will probably need to be on Max's level. But if Max is ahead of Gasly in terms of the championship, and Max does have a shot of the championship, then Red Bull undoubtedly will go for Verstappen. Kind of like give Verstappen priority, and obviously Gasly will be set in behind, probably at the back end of the top 6, and then everyone's going to start questioning: was the right move going to Red Bull, or have they done it too early? Is he going to get demoted again? Is Danny Kivat going to go back into Red Bull, and Gasly going to go back to Toro Rosso? Because I can see those headlines coming if Gasly doesn't improve, or I say improve, it hasn't even started yet. If Gasly doesn't hit the ground running, and I think he does. You need to get some consistent results. I'm not saying podiums, I'm not saying race wins, just take it easy, have a good race, no trouble whatsoever, make sure you get the best that you can out of that car, and hopefully, in my opinion, he should be okay. But obviously, with the Arco that we said, that Helmut Marko has apparently gave warnings to Pierre Gasly already. Bear in mind that he has had 2 crashes in testing, that's what he's warning him about. I think it is a bit too soon. I think they do need to give Gasly probably 2 or 3 years. If he is like not doing good, let's say, and Verstappen is like, let's say Verstappen does win several races this season and Gasly doesn't, and then you're going to question, well, why can't Gasly win races and Verstappen can?
Yeah.
And let's say team orders aren't involved, you are going to question Gasly's ability. But I think Gasly is good enough. He does seem like a really good driver, and I've got every confidence in him that he is going to do well at Red Bull. But one other driver that I'm really interested in talking about is Romain Grosjean. Now, got brought to my attention in the Netflix documentary about Formula 1, the Formula 1 series that is out on Netflix, sorry, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the episode. And I was looking at like what do you call him? I was going to say Brendan Hartley for some reason there. Romain Grosjean. What do you think? Well, exactly. When you seen his form at the start of last season, it was abysmal. It was shocking. It was really, really bad. He was all over the place, to be honest with you, and it was very, very depressing to see. Where I would say he is a good driver. On his days, he's a really, really good driver. But on his bad days, he's a really bad driver, and you can pretty much see the old 2012 Maldonado / Grosjean kind of memes creeping in. I mean, I remember that lineup for 2014 for Lotus. Grosjean and Maldonado. Oh my word, Twitter blew up that day. That was absolutely
the best
amazing.
Pairing ever, wasn't it? The best pairing ever.
Exactly. But the thing why I'm bringing up Romain Grosjean is that his contract expires at the end of this season. However, his teammates Kevin Magnussen's doesn't expire until 2020. So now Romain Grosjean is he 32, 33 years old? He's in his early 30s, which and all that. So obviously time, he's not a young gun anymore. He's not a young puppy. He's getting on a bit, and this is about the time when drivers especially of his caliber, where he is in terms of the grid. Like for example, I think Hamilton and Vettel, who are about the same age, will have another 3 or 4 years left. Grosjean might not so much, because the grid is getting younger and younger and younger each year. And now if you look at this season's grid, half the grid is under the age of 25. So
God,
the teams are trusting the younger drivers a lot more than what they used to. So that's not going to play very well in Grosjean's favour. So when you compare their results throughout the 2 seasons in 2017-2018, when Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean have been teammates, Grosjean came out on top in 2017, outscoring Kevin Magnussen by 9 points. But then when he converted back to in 2018, Kevin Magnussen finished 9th. Finished on 56 points. He finished 56 points ahead of his teammate Romain Grosjean, who finished in 14th place. Wow. And a little stat for you here, guys: Charles Leclerc, the new guy in a slower car in the Sauber, Alfa Romeo Sauber as they were called last season, finished 2 points ahead of Grosjean in 2018. So it was an embarrassment, if you like, for Roman Grosjean. Alright, he picked up the pace towards the end, but that was not what Haas wanted to be, because Haas are a team who are showing real progress at the moment. They've got their new sponsor in Rich Energy coming in, very, very weird sponsor, weird name, weird brand. But let's not get
nice livery though. We can all admit.
Don't get it is nice livery. I think that's probably the only good thing about it, to be honest. But then, so obviously, you know, Haas want to move further up the grid. They want to be knocking on the door of top three, if you like, which I believe they could do. But obviously, they're going to need a consistent driver lineup. Kevin Magnussen is, you know, he's like described as like the bad boy of Formula One, which to me, I'm like, all right, he might have a fuse loose, you know, have a wire loose here and there. I mean, his rivalry with Nick Hulkenberg, as I'm saying in the documentary, I mean, is tremendous. I mean, Suck My Balls, for instance. I mean, what a line. What a line. I mean, T-shirts were getting made by you guys. That was amazing. Oh my word. We want more of that, we want more of that, K-Mag. But no, so, I mean, there are other drivers who could potentially fill that void at Haas and take the team forward. One, probably standout driver for me, well, he could go to another team, but for me, would be Mick Schumacher. Now, I'm just going to briefly talk about Mick for a second now. Obviously, he's going to compete in his first season in Formula 2 this season with the Premier team, I think they call it Prima team, which is part of the Ferrari, the Prima Motorsport team, which is part of the Ferrari junior program. It's the same team that Charles Leclerc drove for when he won in Formula 2 in 2017. And I'm pleased that he's not being pushed into Formula 1 straight away. You know, he's taken a year in the lower ranks in the division below Formula 1, if you like. And if he does well, let's say he comes second or even wins the championship, for instance, you know, why not consider him for not only the Alfa Romeo seat, which I'm gathering he might go, not only that seat, but also the Haas seat, because I think that for me could be an upgrade over Alfa Romeo. I did say Sauber, sorry, the Alfa Romeo. So his name is going to be there. The Fittipaldi, obviously. What's he called? Emerson Fittipaldi. I'm going to say Emiliano for some reason. Emerson Fittipaldi's son. Obviously, he's come through the ranks, so he's in contention. He drove in Tessen, so he's going to be in contention with that seat. And again, these drivers are 20, 21-year-olds. So again, teams are going to be trusting the young gun. So Romain Grosjean does need to get his act together this season, and if he doesn't, I'm sorry, Grosjean, you will be out the door. That's only if Kevin Magnussen outscores him again, like he did in 2018. And if Grosjean has a good start, I don't see why they shouldn't consider him for another year, because he's been there since day dot. So obviously Haas kind of, it's like a loyalty thing. It's like, okay, you've been here since day one, so obviously we'll give you first choice of the contract. However, if he doesn't improve, and let's say about the halfway stage he's like 20, 25, possibly 50 points behind K-Mag, that's when they're going to go, I think we should look for another driver. Which I believe Haas will do, because Gunter Steiner doesn't seem to be Romain Grosjean's #1 fan at certain points, and obviously I wish I had a pound for every single time he swore in Formula 1. It's absolutely crazy the bad words he says. But Lyle, you know, you were kind of I think you were kind of a Grosjean so and so between 2012 and 2013, if I remember. Like you. Yeah. But obviously, you kind of felt you like kind of liked him when he went to Haas in 2016.
Yeah.
Which is like your second team. How would you describe the situation at Haas? Do you think that he would go at the end of the season if he doesn't improve, or do you think that they'll give him another contract and consider the options for 2021?
Yeah. When,
let's say, Mick Schumacher will have 2 seasons in Formula 2 under his belt, possibly Fittipaldi as well, who's competing in the same series. You know, to obviously allow them to develop more, and then possibly replace him, or even replace both of them. It depends how. Obviously, Grosjean could have a tremendous season, and K-Mag could be the one getting replaced. So, how would you see the situation with Romain Grosjean in Haas?
Well, I mean, Grosjean, you know, has had a really hectic career, you know, when he was getting through, obviously. I mean, we all remember 2012. I mean, firstly, obviously, 2012 was an amazing season. But, you know, when you think of Grosjean, and, you know, I don't think everyone does at this point, because obviously everyone, you know, knows Grosjean at Haas. But obviously, you know, you remember Lotus Renault, you know, Romain Grosjean, obviously, like his big crash at the 2012 Belgian Grand Prix. Obviously, one of the only drivers in history ever to get a racing ban. Obviously, as Jordan said, you know, he partnered Wrighton in 2013, partnered Maldonado in 2014 at Lotus Renault, which was just an unbelievably amazing lineup. We all remember how great that was. And you know, pretty rocky, you know, up and down for him. Obviously, he hasn't had a win. I think he's had a podium or two. Obviously, I remember, I think it was Canada 2012, one of his best podiums.
He's had a handful of podiums in 2012 or 2013.
So, you know, that was positive for him. Obviously, yeah, you're right. Going from V8 to V6 wasn't great for him, but when he came to Haas in 2016, obviously, yeah, John, as John said, you know, yes, I was a Haas fan. The reason that I was just because, obviously, there has been a lot of, in the olden days, there was a lot of teams that came in. Obviously, you know, you had like Prost, you know, Jordan, obviously, they did quite well, but I'm trying to remember, like, teams that, you know, like only had like Super Guri, you know, like that only were in Formula One for a season or two. Obviously, you know, towards like the 90s, the late 90s, the early 2000s, you know, you had loads and loads of them, obviously retired drivers and things like that. You know, they would all start their own team. Obviously, yes, Haas were involved with Formula One in the 70s, before you say, you keyboard warriors. But, you know, a brand new team from America, which obviously was a bit of a new testing ground for Formula One, you know, came into the sport. Obviously, new management, everything looked great. And then, obviously, yes, one of my like drivers, obviously, Roman Grosjean goes to the team. Esteban Gutierrez, fine, but he did prove himself. Was it Sauber that he was at? He proved himself. At Sauber, he proved himself. He proved himself to get that seat anyway, which was good. Obviously, he wasn't really much of a kind of a, you know, put your neck out on the line Haas, because obviously they were a brand new team. They could have fallen like, you know, all the other teams have in the past. But obviously, and I always mention it, I even mentioned it on the very first episode of the F1 debate, all, you know, years back. Haas finished Roman Grosjean finished in 6th place, I think it was, in the Australian Grand Prix, 6th or 7th, which was the highest finish. I think it was 6th place, the highest finish for a brand new manufacturer in Formula One. It beat out Mika Salo in 2002 in Toyota, and I always said that. I've said that absolutely ages.
I'll never forget that stat.
If Jordan wants a pound for every time I've said that, you know, he wouldn't be here. He'd be in Melbourne right now. And you know, I always say that because obviously that is true. And then Roman, it was 6th place, and then I think he goes and does it again in Bahrain, the next race. And he had some good, solid positions. He was outscoring Esteban Gutierrez in 2016, you know, doing quite well. And when he got to K-Mag, again, who, you know, Jordan, don't admit, you know, you liked him as well, because he was at McLaren. We'll talk about K-Mag and McLaren in a bit. So, you know, John was a K-Mag fan, I was a Roman fan. So it was basically a bit of a partnership in a kind of a Haas team, American. And they had a little bit of like Hethkus in the blood, because they were out partying, they were out, you know, they were at the top, they were playing music loudly, they were a bit like the young Red Bull, and they were basically like a young love kind of American team. They were really, really good. I think Haas had a lot of kind of things behind them. You know, I mean, yes, it hasn't started out great for them. Will Buxton actually on the F1 launch said that Roman had a good race in Australia last year. Well, he didn't. Because if you remember, yes, they had problems in qualifying, but then also they had a wheel gun failure to Roman, and then I think the same actually happened to K-Mag as well, so they retired from that. Yes, and then obviously, yeah, as John said, you know, rocky start through 2018. I don't think that Roman's going to be under problems. To be honest, I think Haas, at the standard that they're at the moment, you know, they're a midfield team. I don't think that they could look many places for a driver. For example, if this was Ferrari, like if Kimi Räikkönen was partnering Sebastian Vettel and doing these kind of problems, you know, retiring and things like, well, one, he might not have, because obviously the car will be better and more reliable, but he has made, you know, he's not the best driver, but he's probably the best that Haas could actually get at the moment. And you know, you say Mick Schumacher, which I think is an amazing, I think would be a great fit into Formula One. And obviously, yes, it's a good point. Haas use Ferrari engines. Obviously, Alfa Romeo use Ferrari engines at the moment. Obviously, in the future, I imagine they might look to use their own car brand of engines. Obviously, Alfa engines for Alfa Romeo, but obviously at the moment, obviously they're Alfa Ferrari, Haas Ferrari. So yes, Haas might be a bit of a, you know, a leap forward. You never even know, you know, in terms of Antonio Giovinazzi and Kimi Räikkönen. Possibly more Givo than Kimi, but obviously they're another Ferrari engine up the road, so you never know. They might, you know, Givo might look to that seat as well. That might be a boost. But you know, in terms of now, obviously, yes, Roman's career contract is at the end of the season. I don't think that Haas could look anywhere else. I think that Roman is a strong driver for what they need. Obviously, he's been in the team since 2016, so what's that, 4 seasons now? He's been good, he's been consistent. Obviously, as I say, he had that great finish in Australia. I know you can't live on that forever, but he has proved to the team that he is worth keeping in Formula One. And I think this marks 10 years in Formula One for Roman. And yeah, I think he's a great driver. I think you should really keep him. And then just also quickly on the K-Mag situation. Obviously, I mean, K-Mag, you know, pretty happy where he is in Haas. It's more kind of the worries about Grosjean. But just when we were talking about like one season wonders and things like that, obviously you remember K-Mag had his shot in 2014 with McLaren. That went south. I mean, let's be fair. Obviously, he was alongside Jensen. They got on quite well. The car did let them down. Obviously, that was the last year of McLaren Mercedes before obviously they went to Honda, which obviously was a big improvement. You know, an amazing season more than 2015, Jordan. I mean, you loved that season, didn't you? 2015 McLaren
Best
Honda,
you
loved that. Yes.
Loved it.
It's on my wall, guys. I absolutely love it. Yeah, so obviously K-Mag had a shot, so he knows how bad it is. But no, I think that pairing, John, will stay. To be honest, I'm not going to say it's one of the strongest pairings, but it's probably one of the most kind of the pairing that's set in stone. So in my mind, I think that K-Mag and Grosjean will stay at Haas, especially Grosjean will stay at Haas just because of what he's done for the team. And I mean, they are kind of consistent together, and they do work. You know, they do work quite well together. We say that meaning that we haven't heard any fights between them. So I think that no, the two Haas boys will stay together for another few years. I mean, probably till 2021. Obviously, that will probably put Grosjean maybe touching 40 and K-Mag probably touching mid-30s. So maybe then you look to replace them, but I think they're quite safe for this year. But obviously, in terms of how they perform, they really have to step up the game this year because, yeah, last year was a big rocky start for them. And in terms of how they're going to do tomorrow, don't retire. Get two cars to finish, and obviously, as I say, do a 2016 Australia again because, I mean, that was, oh boy, that was one of my favourite ever races, Jordan. And do you want me to say the stat again for you?
Yes, me as well.
Yes, but I mean, you'll be hearing a lot more this year, I assume. And obviously, if Grosjean goes, you won't hear it anymore. But so yes, I think Grosjean will be pretty much safe at Haas.
So obviously, we're talking about these drivers who are potentially, you know, could be, you know, leave or even sacked. Not necessarily. We're not going to talk about people who could possibly retire because obviously that's obviously a different kettle of fish. But one driver that I'm so eager to talk about, and I'm sure a lot of people are as well, because he's always the subject of, is it going to be there next season? Is it going to be there next season? He's only been at a certain team for a couple of years, and it feels like everybody wants him out for some strange reason. That is, of course, Valtteri Bottas at Mercedes. Now, 2017 was a pretty solid season for Bottas in his very first season at Mercedes. 3 wins, very, very impressive. About a handful of pole positions. I'm not really sure how much he got, but those 3 wins was pretty impressive what he did in his first year, and everyone was like, "All right, you actually kind of live up to expectations." But then look at 2018, and it was absolutely abysmal in terms of Bottas's stature result, because he finished 3rd in 2017, but however he finished 5th in 2018, miles away from Lewis Hamilton. I think it was about 150, 160 odd points separated those two drivers. I think it was about 30 odd points separated them in 2017. Bear in mind that the two cars are on equal machinery, so you'd expect Bottas to do probably, you know, I wouldn't say matching Hamilton, because Hamilton is a brilliant driver, but at least doing better than what he has done. And for me, without a shadow of a doubt, if Bottas has the same form like he did in 2019, if he shows the same form in 2019 like he did in 2018, he's definitely a one out the door. So obviously, stat-wise, I'm going to tell you quite a little bit of stats. So as I said, won 3 races in 2017. There was a difference of 58 points between Hamilton and Bottas, who finished 3rd. Hamilton obviously won the championship. 58 points between those two drivers. 161 points between them in 2018. Massive difference. But I'm going to tell you the stat between Hamilton and Nico Rosberg, and I'm going to, you know, just let you compare who probably, you know, that you're probably thinking, all right, Bottas, you know, he's quite new to this. He might be getting into his stride. However, if you compare them to Rosberg's stats against Hamilton, it's pretty alarming how inconsistent Bottas has actually been. So in 2014, there was a 31 point difference between Rosberg and Hamilton. Hamilton obviously winning the championship. In 2015, there was a massive difference. There was actually 59 points between Rosberg and Hamilton. However, in 2016, when Rosberg beat Hamilton to the title, he only beat him by 5 points, but still he beat Hamilton. However, there's not a 100-point difference in sight. The 53-point difference between those two in 2015. Rosberg had reliability problems, but hasn't really had that much of reliability problems. He has a couple of hiccups here and there. I remember in Spain 2017, Austria 2018, you know, a couple of those races where, you know, he just hasn't shown his true pace. And then, of course, the Valtteri, it's James, and here we go again. So I'm not going to go into that. And again, but like it's sad to say because Bottas has so much potential, and everyone we're not really praising him, we're criticising him. We shouldn't really be criticising him, but we can't really help it because everybody knows that he should be doing better. And there are many drivers who are waiting in those wings. One in particular, in fact 2 in particular for me, who could possibly replace Bottas is Ocon and George Russell. Now Ocon is more likely than Russell. However, if Ocon decides to pack up and leave Formula 1 altogether, because remember, Mercedes have got their own Formula E team coming in 2019, for the 2019-2020 season, which is the next season after the current one, then Ocon could possibly move there. Even Bottas could move there, which I highly doubt it, but you never know. And obviously George Russell, if he has a alright season at Williams, which I think if he gets put in the Mercedes, it's far too early. Even Ocon could be considered as a bit of a possibly not. You know, Vettel is a one. His contract doesn't run out till next year, but that's not going to stop Mercedes trying to sign him. And if they can sign Vettel, that would be pretty impressive. I doubt it though. Or stick Alonso in there for a year. That would be impressive to see. Alonso come back in for a season. Again, it's just all disclaimers. This might not happen. They could keep Bottas for another year, which for me would be the right option to do, even if he does have a bit of a poor season. Because ideally, Hamilton will want Bottas there because he's the number 2 driver. He's ideally the bet. You know, the what's the term called? I can't remember the name. I can't remember the name. As you call a number 2 driver. He'll come to us during the episode. You know what I mean? Like, I can't remember the name of it.
Oh, I'm interested in this name. Oh, what is it?
What is it, guys? There'll be people screaming. What is it? Anyways, it'll come to us throughout the course episode. But so obviously he's not going to be Hamilton's number 2 driver. You know, it's obviously he's going to be like. So obviously Hamilton will want him there because whenever they say, okay, Bottas, can he move out the way, please? He's going to go copy. He's not going to do like Rosberg. He's not going to do a Vettel way. He's just going to like blast on the radio. You think I'm moving out the way for him? Not a chance. No ways. And obviously, he doesn't want to cause friction in the team because Bottas isn't like that. He's a very professional driver, which is good, but it's also hindering his Formula 1 career because he could be getting more wins. He should be battling for the championship. I even predicted him to win the 2017 championship. I don't know what I had that day, guys, but it wasn't good. I took a massive risk that day, anyways. But like, it is a bit of a shame when you think about that. Bottas could be out the door out of 2019, which I would say yes, he would leave. Would it be the right option? Probably not for Mercedes. For the likes of Mercedes, I think they should keep Bottas for another year and then consider what they should do not only with Bottas but with Hamilton, because his contract runs out in 2020, and a lot of people are saying that he could pack up and leave. He won't go to MotoGP. Forget that idea. He won't do that. You know, he'll go into fashion and music or whatever. He won't go to another form of motorsport. He'll never do that.
Formula E for Hamilton.
Can you imagine? Well, to me that'd be a massive game for Formula E if they can get Hamilton. That's really odd.
Definitely, yeah. That is like. I mean, no offense, Juve, but that's like when you got Ronaldo in the team. That was like such a massive thing. And actually, more recently as well for you American fans, that's like when the Cleveland Browns signed OBJ. Like, that's just such an amazing. John has no idea, but it's just such an amazing feat for a team like. Anyway, but yes, it's quite similar. But Hamilton exactly. Won't got Effie. No.
No, it's anyone. But so obviously, you know, there's a lot of thinking to do at Mercedes right now. But I mean, Bottas could have a stellar season, but he does need to improve throughout 2018. Because for me, 2017 was thumbs up. It was good. 2018 thumbs down. It was bad. It could be better, definitely. So Lyle, what's your opinions on Valtteri Bottas? Do you think he would be out the door if he has another bad season, or do you think Mercedes will show more faith in him and keep him for another year? Should he have a bad season?
So the thing is with Valtteri Bottas, obviously, so the big thing he said there was obviously with the team radio. You know, when they tell him to do, well, obviously, you know, that Valtteri it's James kind of thing. And you know, sometimes when Valtteri Bottas is told something, he's known to kind of play second best to the team to support Lewis Hamilton and just to support the team and get the points. Obviously, the big thing about Valtteri Bottas, obviously, that we all remember is Russia of last year, 2018. Obviously, you know, he has to move aside for Lewis Hamilton. Obviously, we made a big episode about it. It was probably one of our biggest episodes, one of our best episodes, I'll probably say, of last year. You know, we talked about that. A guy who, you know, was about to win in Russia, which, by the way, was his first victory history in Formula 1. Obviously, he only won a 3. Obviously, back in 2017, it's the 4th race in. So he was about to win that again. You know, a track that, you know, Valerie Halsdorf, probably his best track. He was about to win in Sochi, and then obviously he has to move over, you know, change his strategy, swap positions with Lewis Hamilton. And you remember they did that kind of ridiculous where they shared first place on the podium. So I think from a team perspective, they kind of like Bottas because he works with the team. I don't want to say Rosberg caused headaches, but sometimes you think with the team like pulling the hair out, was Toto just smashing that table too much because Rosberg and Hamilton were just at each other all the time? Well, actually, do you know what? I've already answered my own question because yes, they did. All they have to say to you is 2 words or a number or a word and a number, which is Spain 2016, and then you get your answer. That's when the blood boiled. That's when it all went. So obviously that's not going to happen to Bottas and Hamilton, never. I mean, as much as we probably might like to see it, apart from you Silver Arrow fans, you know, that's never going to happen because obviously Bottas, I'm not going to say he's a nice guy, but obviously I'm not going to say he's like a Mr. Goody Two Shoes in the car, but obviously he works with the team. He was brought in to do that, to support Hamilton, to work with the team, and I want to say he does a good job with that. So I think that Mercedes are pretty happy with how Bottas is performing. So in that instance, Jordan, I would say that if Mercedes were going to re-sign Bottas, I think that they might not rush to sign the paper. They would probably analyse who they have in the, you know, waiting. For example, like obviously, yes, you've got Esteban Ocon, obviously Gutierrez. Well, actually, yes, Gutierrez is, you know, I think he is in some kind of Mercedes program where he is.
Him and Stoffel Van Dorn is in the
yeah.
Obviously, with Van Dorn being a Formula E, he drives for the HWA team, which is like the guinea pig team for Mercedes, because they're going to take the HWA will become Mercedes in 2019, 2020. Yeah. So obviously, I mean Stoffel to Mercedes.
I mean, so yeah, so you obviously, yeah, you've got Gutierrez. I mean, Gutierrez and Van Dorn probably not, but the main one obviously is Esteban Ocon, as Jordan said. George Russell, who is got a chance in Formula 1 now. I mean, to be honest, going from Mercedes junior program to Williams, it's a big jump, but he has his chance. But you never know. Mercedes could look that way. Obviously, they have worked with George Russell in the past. But so anyway, so on a Mercedes standpoint, I think that they're pretty happy at the moment. They'll probably re-sign Bottas. You know, happy guy. You know, he gets them points. He does get reliability. Finishes, obviously Hamilton wins the race. Normally Bottas finishes, let's say, an average of 3rd. You know, Vettel normally comes 2nd, or especially in the first half of the season. Obviously Bottas comes 3rd, or at least on the podium. Obviously he has 30 podiums as of current time, and you know, he's pretty happy for Mercedes standpoint. But in terms of his own standpoint, I don't think that he's very happy where he is, because you were in a Silver Arrow, you know, you were alongside Lewis Hamilton, who's the 5-time world champion. He's winning races left, right and centre. I think firstly you're probably looking at yourself and saying, well, why can I not win races like him? A bit like when we said right at the start, you know, why can't Gasly win races like Verstappen? Or that's what they might be saying. But obviously in the case of Bottas, you know, that's true, because he's had 2 seasons with the team, going into a 3rd season. He knows he can't win as many as Lewis does. You know, the ratio of that is probably like Lewis, you know, every 10 races Valtteri gets 1, every 10 wins Valtteri gets 1. So that's already happened, you know that. And but Bottas, he's probably thinking to himself, I'm at this team, I'm playing second fiddle, you know, in the team. I'm not as happy as I could be. I'm not at a team where, for example, like Williams, I was the leader of the team. Obviously, you had Felipe Massa, an experienced guy alongside him. But I would say that Bottas, especially in his last season, you know, was quite dominant, was kind of the guy who was leading the team. Obviously, I mean, pairing Massa is great. But, you know, I thought, no, he wasn't. His last season was, it wasn't with Massa, was it? Was his last season with Massa? It wasn't, was it? No.
Williams, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it was, yes.
Because originally, it was going to be Bottas Stroll at Williams in 2017. That was the original lineup until
Massa had to come back.
Until Bottas went to Mercedes, and then Massa came back to part of Stroll for 20 years.
Yeah, I wasn't too sure actually. I was thinking it might have been Stroll, but anyway, yes, obviously Bottas was probably the leader at Williams, but he's not the leader at Mercedes, and he hasn't been. And I think I don't want to say he struggled to find his feet, but you know, he did at the start. But obviously he got pole in his 3rd race, or his 3rd weekend, obviously in Bahrain. And then obviously he got a win in his 4th, which was amazing. Obviously, I guess that's why Jordan said he was going to win the World Championship, which I agree with you guys. I don't know what he was smoking that day, but I don't want any. I don't want any to say that Bottas is going to win the World Championship. I mean, we already think Vettel's going to win the World Championship, but maybe too optimistic. That's what I all say. And yeah, so Bottas from himself, I don't think he should be I don't think he's happy at Mercedes, but I think it's the best chance that he's going to get. And I think from a Mercedes standpoint, Jordan, I think that they'd be happy to re-sign him because of what he's doing for the team. He's reliable, he gets positions, he gets points and podiums for the team, and he works with them. I mean, in 2018, Russia, he wasn't happy, but he did what the team wanted to. You know, like you said, he didn't put up a fight like Rosberg or not Raikkonen, like Vettel would. He didn't have a go. He said, "Okay, I'll move aside. Okay, I'll do this. Okay, I'll do that." And he might be looking at the bigger picture. He might be sacrificing himself. I would say probably not, because a driver wouldn't say, "I'm going to do something for the team." They're always thinking about themselves. But Valtteri worked for the team, and in that instance, Jordan, I'd say that the team are pretty happy to keep him, because, I mean, why not? He gets results. You know, at least keep him for the next year or so. But yeah, I think that Mercedes will be happy to re-sign Bottas. I think that would be a good fit. Do you all remember the double points at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the curtain closer in 2014? Well, I always thought that was a pretty good idea. Obviously, 50 points for the winner, but obviously that wasn't taken by the fans. That wasn't taken very nice. Obviously, they decided to scrap that and just make it, obviously, 25 points for the winner and normal championship permutations since then. And obviously, since then, we've never really had a kind of you know, an enticement, you know, points that don't come from a race win and things like that. But obviously, since then, Liberty Media have added a bit more spice into Formula One by introducing this new rule. It's just basically referred to now as the extra point. And what we're going to be mentioning it in this episode. Basically, what it is starting from Australia, obviously. So qualifying, which obviously will have happened today as time of recording. People that set the fastest lap will be eligible for this point in the race. Which will happen on Sunday, on the race day, but they can only get it if they are in the top 10. So obviously, I'll give you an example of what might happen. So obviously, Lewis Hamilton, obviously everyone's favourite driver, he wins a race, gets 25 points. He sets the fastest lap, but obviously he is inside the top 10, obviously, which means that he would get 26 points in the World Championship. Now, obviously, you know, it sounds like a good idea. But obviously we have a little bit, well, we don't really have concerns, but obviously I want to bring up a few things about it. So obviously in that instance, what I've just said about Lewis Hamilton, you know, he would get 26 points. That might happen again and again and again. Then he finishes third place, but gets an extra point. That's 16. Sebastian Vettel finishes second, gets 18, but that's only 2 points closer. That's actually, no, wait there. That would be a 3-point gap, but it would be 2 points with the extra point. And, I mean, at the end of the day, guys, it will add more spice into the championship, because we could see them finish the World Championship, you know, normal first places and second places. But let's say that Hamilton or Vettel, you know, picks up all these fastest laps, gets all these points. We could see somebody win, we could see somebody tip the scales for, you know, 4th place, 5th place, 3rd place, 2nd place, or even the World Championship. We could see people tipping the scales from this new rule. So I mean, I do think it's great. I really, really think it's great. I mean, Jordan, obviously, you know, we have seen changes in Formula One. As I say, the double points in Abu Dhabi, but that was a long time ago. Most recently, the qualifying system, obviously, which was in Australia in 2016, that was a fail. I know that wasn't points, but that was a failure. Trying to kind of create Formula One in terms of like a fun kind of... That reminded me, guys, I'll tell you what that reminded me. That reminded me of, there was this old, obviously you probably had it called PGR, an old racing game for the Xbox and PlayStation. And you had things in there like eliminators and things like that. And really, it wasn't an eliminator. It was an elimination race. It obviously was just happening around Albert Park instead of the streets of Tokyo. And that's what it reminded me of, the qualifying. That obviously didn't work, Jordan, so we scrapped that. I know that wasn't points, but, you know, this new kind of segment, which it's adding more spice. It's trying to turn Formula One into a bit more of a game, a bit more of like a... I don't want to say like a Hollywood thing, but it's trying to add more spice into Formula One. So do you like the idea of this, where a driver could, as I say, win the race, get 25 points, but then walk away with 26 points with his extra point from the fastest lap?
It could spice things up at the front of the grid. For example, like you said about the championship perspective, it could, you know, if let's say if one of the drivers needs an extra point, it could provide entertainment at the front. But there's only one problem with that. We already have entertainment at the front. The idea of the 1 point system, this 1 point system, is to try and get the midfield to close up. That's what the Liberty Media have said. But there's only one problem. The back of the grid isn't fast enough to compete with front of the grid. So, for example, let's say Ferrari gets a fastest lap. They're going to get the extra point. Let's say. I'll start that again. Sorry. Let's say Toro Rosso gets the extra, is on for fastest laps, and he's in P8. Then all of a sudden, Vettel let's say he's got so much of an advantage, he'll go in the pit, put the set of the softest tyres available on, go out and bang out a 1:23, and then you're thinking, well, and then Vettel ends up winning the point, and then it's like, okay, well, the guys have got an even more of an advantage over the rest of the field, and I don't think it's not a bad thing, but at the same time, it could be, there's more things to I would say to look at rather than focus on this 1 point thing, because Liberty Media have all of a sudden just tried to like improve or make, like as I said, to make the sport more entertainment as well, and it's only going to make the front of the grid more entertainment because they're only going to be the cars available to get the fastest laps, because the cars, like I said, the midfield, they just aren't quick enough to compete with the front of the grid, because if they could, the grid would be a lot closer. And I think it will hinder a couple of people where not even the top guys could even go for the points as well. It could be the person in P4, even P5. Again, could be Red Bull, could be a it could be Red Bull, it could be a Ferrari, or even could be Mercedes, whoever's there. And I think Liberty Media should be really considering, thinking about the more major things in Formula 1. For example, keeping the key races in Formula 1, because there's a lot of races, for example, Italy, Great Britain, Germany, Mexico. Those tracks are in the last year of the contracts, and there's not even a sign of a new contract in sight. And Liberty Media are concentrating on how to get an extra point out of the grid. For me, it's a bit silly to be thinking about and to be doing. And I think that, like, I know where they're coming from, but it's not going to make a massive difference. I can't see it happening anyway. I mean, I was watching a guy as well the other week, and he pretty much said that, like, yeah, okay, it's not going to kill the sport, but it's not going to improve it either. And to be fair, it's like, yeah, I do agree. It's like, it's not going to ruin. It's not going to like become boring again, but it's not exactly going to help anything anyway. And I think if it does boil down to the World Championship where the top three guys are close, then yes, I think it could spice things up in the championship at the front. But the aim of the game is to try and get the midfield teams to get an extra point here and there, which isn't going to happen. So in my eyes, what's the point in having it? Why give the more teams who have got an advantage and even more advantage over the midfield teams? It's just that's just not really fair in my eyes, and that's how I generally feel. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm not saying it's a good thing either. I think Liberty Media need to book up their ideas and sort these races out before they sort points or anything like that out. That's how I feel anyway. Yeah, so,
definitely. I mean, when it comes down to like the end of the season, like the points, obviously in the constructors as well, obviously, and as well as drivers, it's always tight, especially constructors. It's always tight around the midfield teams, but obviously, you can't. Yeah, the midfield teams won't be able to qualify for this. They could do the race of their life and not get this bonus point. And sometimes it's just like
they could. If they really give it a good go, they actually could. But only one problem is that they've got a power unit that they've got to keep healthy. And if they absolutely blast it on for an extra point, why do it? What's the point?
That is a little bit stupid. But I'm going to say though, I mean, it might add, like, for example, we have seen things like the Williams going faster in Austria 2014, things like that. Anything like that might add a little bit more spice, but obviously they have got to get into the top 10 as well. It just creates a little bit of problems. It just creates a little bit more problems where the top teams are just going to get these kind of points. The lower field teams aren't really. But to be honest, though, I don't really think anyone's going to be focusing on this. I think since it was coming, it was just a little bit more of an incentive. But I think it will die down. And if anything, actually, Jordan, it might actually just die completely, like how qualifying did in 2016. Because obviously, remember, we were probably. I mean, I don't think we were. But people were probably sitting here thinking that was going to be like the best thing since sliced bread when it came in. A bit like, as I said, a bit like that PGR game. That was absolutely ridiculous. That was just really, really pathetic. But no, that has actually worked really, really well. So obviously, the last thing we're going to end this episode on, guys, and it's a really happy topic. And that is, we all love when Formula 1 movies come out and things like that, whether they be documentaries like Senna, and obviously the movie about Frank Williams, whether they be Hollywood movies like Rush, obviously, which was about Niki Lauda and James Hunt, obviously, which starred, Hollywood actors, obviously directed by Rod Howard and things like that. We all love things like that, and obviously there is a brand new series on F1 called Formula 1 Drive to Survive, which is about the 2018 season in a I was about to say that John had a funny name like documentary entertainment style, but it's a documentary style thing, a bit like Senna, and it is about the 2018 Formula 1 World Championship, going behind the scenes, exclusive driver interviews and things like that. It is on Netflix. It is a multi-part series, really entertaining, obviously.
So good.
Well, Firstly, I'm going to let you know, because not everyone has Netflix, you can actually get a month free. Obviously, you just put in your details, but obviously you don't get charged for the first month. I think it's £8.99, obviously UK price. After that, it is definitely worth watching. Really good. It gives you the insight into one of the most growing sports in the world, and I absolutely love it. And I love the insight, how you can actually get closer to Formula 1. Obviously, this has just even made you more... this has made it get closer to Formula 1, John. And as I just mentioned there at the start, obviously all the movies as well. Obviously, they were already out there, but obviously Duke Videos have just released some new revamping, like HD, kind of 4D, not 4D, like 4K versions of the race reviews, not just from 2018 back to 2000, but the 90s, the 80s, and even the 1970s, and as well as how amazing this Netflix series is, John. And obviously, before we say any more, obviously, guys, make sure to please go and watch it. Obviously, we will leave a link to the Netflix sign-up page, obviously, down in the comments, as well as the Formula 1 trailer for the F1 trailer, obviously made by the F1 YouTube channel. Obviously, we'll leave that down in the comments as well. So yes, I was going to say, John. So obviously, you've got all these sports in the world, Formula 1 in entertainment sport worldwide, and with all this going on, especially the revamping of the season reviews and obviously the new Netflix series, which could spark even more, we are getting very close to F1, to the point of where we can actually take it home and watch it, not actual physical races live anymore. It's how close we can get to F1 now is crazy. That the fact it's now on Netflix, obviously, one of the biggest entertainment platforms in the world.
No, I like it, mate. To be fair, I think not only is it good for us Formula 1 fans, but if you want to get into Formula 1, it's certainly a good thing to watch as well, because it explains like a lot that you wouldn't necessarily understand. Because I've always said that for someone who to get into Formula 1, I'm like, just ignore the rules and regulations. All you have to do is concentrate on who drives for who's the drivers, who's the teams, who's the races, when are they happening, where can you watch them. That's all you need to focus on. Yeah. Get into that, then you'll learn everything as the show goes on. For me, I remember that they brought out a documentary on DVD about 3 or 4 years ago called, I think it was called One. It was just called One. It was a brilliant documentary. I absolutely loved it. And I've always said, if you want to learn Formula 1, then watch that. But this kind of shows another side of Formula 1, like the high tension, how stressful it can be, the swearing, for example. Obviously, little tribute to Jules, how dangerous it can still be, even though we live in this massive safe era where there hadn't been a death since Ayrton Senna back in '94, and then 21 years later, obviously Jules Bianchi sadly dies in a Formula 1 accident. So it just still proves how dangerous motorsport is. Doesn't matter whether you go the halo or not, or carbon fibre this, or aluminium that. It's still very highly dangerous, and it shows that well in the documentary. It doesn't overdo anything. It's just nice and brilliant. And yes, if you have got spare 2 days free or even a full day, just binge watch it. Do it. Yes. By the way, we're not getting paid for saying that. By the way,
I wish, but I mean, if Netflix, I wish, yes. But the thing is, though, John, if Netflix want to get involved, I mean, get involved. Hi, Netflix. But obviously it is really good. And obviously as well, it shows that we're not getting paid, because obviously there is a lot of good other stuff to watch on there. For example, like Stranger Things and the Umbrella Academy. Brilliant. So yeah, just go and check it. And obviously the F1 debate show coming soon in 2019 for Netflix. And obviously then, as I said, free month. So obviously that's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the F1 debate show. Obviously, please go and check out our 2019 GB preview show round 1 video, which is obviously the Australian Grand Prix. As I say in that video, obviously that is a bit of more of a revamping series. Obviously we did it in 2017, but obviously it's back again. We're going to cover all the rounds, obviously all the way down to the closing in Abu Dhabi. We also have a brand new video as well, obviously, which is the review show. The review show for obviously the Australian Grand Prix, and obviously again all the way down to Abu Dhabi, which will be coming out tomorrow, obviously after the race. And obviously the F1 debate, obviously keep tuning in every Saturday. Enjoy the Australian Grand Prix, guys. It is like Oh my god, it's tomorrow. We are inside
Hours
the weekend.
away.
It's insane. I mean, you must be the hype. We must be hyped out by now, or have you not heard of the
I'm going to bed. I'm going to bed soon.
Actually, yes, yeah,
Very soon.
yeah, definitely. We've got
When you
our
get up
alarm
early.
set for a big wake up in the UK. But obviously, yeah, wherever you'd watched the race in the world, enjoy. It's going to be absolutely amazing stuff. So yes, thank you very much for watching this episode, guys. Oh yes, and obviously make sure to leave a comment, subscribe. Obviously, if you are brand new, tell your friends about us. Let us know in the comment section anything that we've said in this episode, obviously good or bad. Let us know. We like a conversation. We will respond. And yes, until next time, guys, we will see you later.
See you later, guys.